Lesson 4.2 is on using intercepts. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So here, who uses this? Divers can use intercepts to determine the time a safe ascent will take. A diver explored the ocean floor 120 feet below the surface and then ascended at a rate of 30 feet per minute. The graph shows the diver's elevation below sea level during the ascent. The y-intercept is the y-coordinate of the point where the graph intercepts the y-axis. So the y-axis is the axis that goes up and down. Okay, so the y-intercept is where it intersects that axis. So here, the point is 0, negative 120. So the x-intercept is going to be 120, just negative 120, so that y value. The x-coordinate of that point is always going to be 0 because it's not going left or right at all, it's just going up and down. Okay, so the y value is the y-intercept. The x-intercept is the x-coordinate of the point where the graph intersects the x-axis. So the x-axis is the horizontal one that goes left to right, and the y-coordinate of this point is always 0. So this point right here, 4, 0, intercepts the x-axis. So the value 4 is the x-intercept. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to look at finding them from graphs, equations. So we're going to go ahead and start with example 1. So example 1, finding intercepts. So find the x and y intercept. And here we have a graph for part A. So in order to find the x-intercept, you need to look at your x-axis here and where your line intersects the x-axis. So here at negative 4, so that's negative 4, 0. So that means the x-intercept then is negative 4. To find the y-intercept, you look on your y-axis, see where the line crosses the y-axis right here, and that is 0, 1, 2, 3, so that's negative 3. So 0, negative 3. So the y-intercept is negative 3 for that example. So finding it on the graph, you just need to look where your line crosses the x-axis for the x-intercept and where it crosses the y-axis for the y-intercept. Part B is if we have an equation. So we have the equation 3x minus 2y equals 12. To find the x-intercept, your y value is always 0, so you're going to replace y with 0 and then solve for x. So I'm going to have 3x minus 2, y is 0, so 2 times 0 equals 12. So 3x, 2 times 0 is just 0, okay, so I'm going to have 3x equals 12. Then from here, divide both sides by 3, so x equals 4. Okay, so that means the x-intercept is 4. Now I have to go find the y-intercept, and this time x is going to be 0. So for the y-intercept, x is always 0. So I'm going to use the same equation, but replace x this time with 0. So 3 times 0 minus 2y equals 12. Well, 3 times 0 is just 0, so I'm left with this minus 2y, or negative 2y. Don't forget that operation there. You need to keep that. So I have negative 2y equals 12. To solve that, I divide both sides by negative 2. So y equals negative 6. So here the y-intercept is negative 6. So now we're going to look at 3 check-it-out problems. There's one graph and then 2 equations. So go ahead, pause the video, find the x and y intercepts of these 3 examples, and then resume when you're ready to check your answer. So for A, I just need to look on the graph. Okay, so where the line crosses the x-axis is right here, and that's going to be negative 2, 0. So that means the x-intercept is equal to -2. Where it crosses the y-axis is right here, and that's going to be 0, 3. So that means the y-intercept is equal to 3. Now for b, we have the equation -3x plus 5y equals 30. To solve for the x-intercept, we have to let y equal to 0. So we're going to have -3x plus 5 times 0 equals 30. So then 5 times 0 is 0. So I have -3x equals 30. Divide both sides by -3. So we get x equals -10. So our x-intercept equals -10. Now for our y-intercept, our x value this time is going to be 0. So we're going to have -3 times 0 plus 5y equals 30. -3 times 0 is 0, so I have 5y equals 30. Divide both sides by 5, so I have y equals 6. So that means the y-intercept is equal to 6. Now we have example C, which is 4x plus 2y equals 16. So I'm going to start with the x-intercept. To find the x-intercept, you set y equal to 0. So we're going to have 4x plus 2 times 0 equals 16. So I have 4x, 2 times 0 is 0. So 4x equals 16. Divide both sides by 4. So x equals 4. So the x-intercept equals 4. Now I need to go solve for the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, you set x equal to 0. So I'm going to have 4 times 0 plus 2y equals 16. 4 times 0 is 0. So then I have 2y equals 16. Divide both sides by 2. So y equals 8. So the y-intercept equals 8. So there's just a little student-to-student note on finding intercepts. This student uses the cover-up method to find the intercepts. To use this method, make sure the equation is in standard form first. So if you have the equation 4x minus 3y equals 12, first she covers the 4x with her finger and solve the equation I can see. And that would give you the y-intercept. So if you just cover this, you have -3y equals 12, so divide both sides by -3, and you get the y-intercept is -4. Then you do the same thing for the y term, cover the y, so you have 4x equals 12, divide both sides by 4 to get x equals 3, so your x-intercept is 3. So that's another strategy to help you find the x and y intercepts. So now we're going to look at example 2. We have a travel application. So it says the Sandia Peak Tramway in Albuquerque, New Mexico travels a distance of about 450 meters to the top of Sandia Peak. Its speed is 300 meters per minute. The function f of x equals 4,500 minus 3,000 or 300x gives the tram's distance in meters from the top of the peak after x minutes. Graph this function and find the intercepts. What does each intercept represent? So our function is f of x equals 4,500 minus 300x. So first, you want to generate some ordered pairs. Okay, so I would start by making a table. So here they picked the x values 0, 2, 5, 10, and 15 and substituted that into our equation here. So when x is 0, we would have 4,000 minus 300 times 0. So 4,500 minus 0 gives us 4,500. And then do the same thing with 2. So 300 times 2 is 600. So 4,500 minus 600 gives us 3,900. And then you repeat the same process with your other 3 points. Then these form our ordered pairs. So this would be 0, 4,500, 2, 3,900, 5, 3,000, 10, 1,500, and then 15, 0. So you would plot those on your graph, and it would form a graph that looks like this, where the y-intercept is up here at 4,500, the x-intercept is right here at 15. So the y-intercept is 4,500. This is the starting distance from the top in this situation. Okay? And then the x-intercept is 15. This is the time when the tram reaches the peak where the distance is 0. Okay? So that is example 2. So now we have a check it out problem. It says the school store sells pens for $2 and notebooks for $3. The equation 2x plus 3y equals 60 describes the number of pens, x, and the notebooks, y, you can buy for $60. Graph the function and find its intercepts. What does each intercept represent? So go ahead, take a moment, pause the video, and try this one on your own. And then when you're ready to check your answer, resume the video to reveal the answer. So here, first we're going to create a table. So we're going to have an xy table. And our equation is 2x plus 3y equals 60. Okay? So you want to pick some x values. That makes sense. So I'm going to do 0, 10, 20, and 30. If you want to do more, that's fine, but I'm just going to start with those 4. So when I put in 0 for x, I get 3y equals 60. So divide both sides by 3, and you get 20 for y. If I put in 10 for x, I would have 2 times 10, which is 20. So I'd subtract that from 60 to get 40. Oops, sorry. Let me put this out here so you can follow along. So if I have 2 times 10, that gives me 20. So then 60 minus 20 gives me 40. And I need to divide that by 3. So this we actually get a not so nice number. We get 13 1/3, or 13.3 repeating. And then for 20, we would have 2 times x, or 2 times 20, which is 40. And then 60 minus 40 gives us 20. And then we have to divide by 3. So that would give us 6 2/3, or 6.6 repeating. And then our last number is going to be 30. So 2 times 30 gives us 60, but subtract from 60 we get 0. 0 divided by 3 gives us 0. Okay, so these would be some points to plot on our graph. Now 13 1/3 and 6 2/3 will be a little bit more challenging to graph, so you'll have to approximate those, but you get a good idea of where the graph is going. So 0, 20 is right here. 10 and then 13 1/3, so this is about like right here. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And then 20 and 6 2/3, so I'm going to say about right here, and then 30, 0, so right here. And then you're going to connect your points for your graph. Okay, so here we have our different intercepts, starting with the x-intercept. Our x-intercept is 30. So what that means in this situation is the number of pens that can be purchased if no notebooks are purchased. So pens that can be purchased if no notebooks are purchased. Then we have our y-intercept. And our y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis, so right here. So y-intercept is 20. And this is the number of notebooks that can be purchased if no pens are purchased. So notebooks that can be purchased if no pens are purchased. So this coordinate is 30, 0. So that means 30 pens, 0 notebooks. And then here this coordinate is 0, 20. So that means 0 pens are purchased, 20 notebooks. Okay, so that's our check it out problem that goes along with example 2. So now we're going to look at example 3. A quick note, remember to graph a linear function, you need to plot only 2 ordered pairs. It is often simplest to find the ordered pairs that contain the intercepts. So in order to graph something, remember you only need two ordered pairs. And in this case, it's easier to find the x and y intercept and plot those, and those will give you a really good idea on what your graph will look like. So example A, we have 2x minus 4y equals 8. So we're going to go find those 2 intercepts. So x-intercept, that means my y is going to be 0. So I'm going to have 2x minus 4 times 0 equals 8. 4 times 0 is 0, so I'm going to have 2x equals 8. Divide both sides by 2, so I get x equals 4. So my x-intercept is 4, which means my coordinate is going to be 4, 0. My y-intercept, x is going to be 0, so I'm going to have 2 times 0 minus 4y equals 8. This gives me 0, so I'm going to have negative 4y. Don't forget that operation equals 8. Divide both sides by negative 4. So I get y equals negative 2. So my ordered pair would be 0, negative 2. Okay? So on this graph, 4, 0 is right here, 0, negative 2, and then you connect your dots. So that's what your graph would look like for part A. Part B, we have 2/3 y equals 4 minus 1/2 x. Now, it's easiest to rewrite your equation in standard form. So if it's not in standard form, rewrite it. Okay? It makes your life easier when you're solving for x and y intercept. You can use it this way, okay? But there's going to be more steps that you're going to have to do to find your x and y intercept. So first we're going to solve and rewrite it in standard form. So I'm going to have 2/3 y equals 4 minus 1/2 x. Remember, standard form is ax plus by equals c. So I need to get this x term onto my left-hand side, so I'm going to add 1/2 x. So I'm going to add 1/2 x. Okay, so the x term is going to come first. So I'm going to have 1/2 x plus 2/3 y equals 4. Okay. So I have the equation 1/2 x plus 2/3 y equals 4. Now, we are going to, you could leave it like this, but I'm going to get rid of those fractions just to make our equation a little bit nicer. So to get rid of our fractions, we want to look at the 2 and 3. We want to get rid of those denominators. So to get rid of those denominators, you want to multiply both sides by the least common factor between 2 and 3. So that would be 6. So, or least common multiple, I should say, not least common factor. So least common multiple. So 2 and 3, the least common multiple is going to be 6. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 6. So that means I'm going to have 6 times 1/2 x plus 6 times 2/3 y, and then over here 4 times 6, 24. So 6 times 1/2 will give me 3, so 3x, and then 6 times 2/3, that will give me 4, because 6 and 3 simplify to 2 and 1. 2 times 2 is 4, so 4y. So my new equation is 3x plus 4y equals 24. Now you could use either one when you're finding the x or y intercept, but I find it nicer to use whole numbers as coefficients when you're finding x and y intercept. So x-intercept, my y value is 0. So I'm going to have 3x plus 4 times 0 equals 24. That will give me 0. So I'm going to have 3x equals 24. Divide both sides by 3. So x equals 8. So my coordinate would be 8, 0. Y-intercept, my x value is 0, so I'm going to have 3 times 0 plus 4y equals 24. 3 times 0 is 0, so I'm going to have 4y equals 24. Divide both sides by 4, so we get y equals 6. So that coordinate would be 0, 6. So 8, 0 is right here, 0, 6 is right here. Connect your dots to make your graph. So now there are 2 check it out problems for you to do. It says use the intercepts to graph the line described by each equation. So there's 2 examples, so go ahead, take a moment, pause the video, answer these 2 questions, and then resume when you're ready to check your answer. All right, so first one, for our x-intercept, our y value is going to become 0, so we're going to have negative 3x plus 4 times 0 equals negative 12. 4 times 0 is 0, so I'm going to have negative 3x equals negative 12. Divide both sides by negative 3. So I get x equals negative 12 divided by negative 3 gives me a positive 4. So that coordinate would be 4, 0. My y-intercept, my x value becomes 0, so I'll have negative 3 times 0 plus 4y equals negative 12. This gives me 0, so I'm going to have 4y equals negative 12. Divide both sides by 4. So I get y equals negative 3. So the intercept will be 0, negative 3. Now to go graph this, 4, 0, so I go right 4, and then I don't go up or down at all. And then 0, negative 3, so I stay on my y-axis and go down 3. Okay, so that is where your intercepts would be, and then you would connect the dots. Okay, so we're going up 3, right 4, up 3, right 4. So I'm just going to add 2 more dots so my line is a little straighter since I don't have a straight edge. So your graph will look something like this. Okay? So that's part A. B, we have y equals 1/3 x minus 2. Okay? So you can rewrite this in standard form. I mentioned how you could just use this equation and find your x and y intercept. So I'm going to show you that method as well, just so you can see it. If you wanted to rewrite it in standard form, you're more than welcome to. So here we have the x-intercept. So for the x-intercept, our y value becomes 0. So we're going to have 0 equals 1/3 x minus 2. So now we just need to solve the equation for x. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides to isolate the x term. So I get 2 equals 1/3 x. I want the value of just one x, so I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal, which is 3. So 3 times 2 gives me 6. The 1/3 times 3 gives me 1, so I have 1x. So x equals 6. So that means our coordinate would be 6, 0. Now to get our y-intercept, our x value this time is going to be 0. So y equals 1/3 times 0 minus 2. So I have y, 1/3 times 0 is just 0, and then I have this minus 2. Don't forget, that's going to mean this is negative, so negative 2. So I have y equals negative 2, so I'm done solving my equation. So that means I have the coordinate 0, negative 2. So again, you could rewrite this in standard form if you wanted to, or you could just solve for your x-intercept and your y-intercept using the equation with the form that it's in. So then 6, 0, I'm going to go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Plot my point. And then y-intercept, I'm going down 2. Okay? So our slope, we're going up 2, right 6. So I can go down 2, right 6 to get one more point. And then if I connect the dots, my graph would look something like this.